Welcome to Football Incorporated Podcast, a podcast created by two of the greatest football minds.
What's poppin', everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football Incorporated. Once again, I'm your host here, joined by my good friend, Patrick Arthurs. Patrick, like always, how you doing? It's Friday. We got some wine in front of us, so a little bit of Pinot Grigio, because we're apparently basic white girls at 12:30 in the afternoon. But, yeah, what's up, man? How's it going?
It's going great. I'm just really excited. Another week of NFL football coming up. This is one of my favorite times of the year. You really can't, as I said this before last week, you cannot beat this time of year.
Yeah, you can't beat it. It's all good. So, yeah, let's get right into it. The topics that we're going to discuss today. First of all, we're going to go over just a couple things from last week. I know most of you have already seen the game, and things have already been talked about. But we're going to do our power rankings, the top 10 teams that we believe are basically in the top 10. Just based on performance from last week and kind of expectations leading into the rest of the year and what we saw last week. We're going to talk about Antonio Brown a little bit. We're going to talk about, are the Jets done now for the season now that Sam Darnold has mono and he's going to be out for a little bit? Are the Chiefs' offense going to be okay without Tyreek Hill? What the frick is going on with the Browns? Because they lost big time. The Panthers, I want to talk about Cam Newton. He didn't look that good. He hasn't looked good in a while. Is it time for the Panthers to move on from Cam Newton? And my friend Patrick here has a rant about the Lions he's going to do. And we're going to go over our games for Sunday and our predictions. So that's kind of the rundown of the podcast. So just stay tuned. And the first thing we're going to jump into right away is the top 10 teams. Yeah, I think, number one, I have the Patriots. I think now with the addition of Antonio Brown and now I just think what we saw them from last week, they look sharp, they look good. Tom Brady still looks like he's in his prime, and they're playing against the Dolphins, which I think my roommate Noah said that it'll be the first time that a team will have 100 points scored on them. And that might be true just because of last week. The Dolphins look terrible. The Patriots look sharp. What are your thoughts?
I do agree with you on this. I'm a believer in the Patriots, and I think that win was just so convincing. Tom Brady, again, as you said before, he looked like he's still in his prime. And again, with Antonio Brown on this roster now, this offense is going to be amazing. And to think that the Ravens put up 59 points against the Dolphins, I would not be surprised if the Patriots put up like 70 points. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, especially with Antonio Brown now coming onto that team. I think that they're taking a big step forward, a big leap, and that offense is just going to do wonders this year. I think Tom Brady might be an MVP candidate. I mean, he usually is. Last year, I don't think he really was. But I think this year, I mean, he looks so good. He still had zip on the ball. He still looks sharp. That Patriots defense looks solid. That offense looks really good. Again, I think Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are going to be number one for the whole year, and I think that they're going to come out as Super Bowl champions at the end of all this. Yeah, so that's my take on that. Number two are the Chiefs. What are your thoughts on it?
I think, based off last week's performance against Jacksonville, that offense is so explosive. And I think easily, based on the performance, number two is a really accurate ranking. However, I think, and we'll get this later, but how's that offense going to look now? Tyreek Hill is no longer, he's going to be injured for at least, I think reports say at least 3 weeks with that, with a shoulder injury. So it's going to be interesting, but I have confidence in Andy Reid, their offensive coordinator, that Pat Mahomes is going to spread the wealth as shown in the last game. Sammy Watkins had 200 yards receiving on 9 catches. So if he can get even like 120, 130 yards receiving, Pat Mahomes is going to get the ball to his playmakers. That defense is, I'm not going to say it's much improved, but it's a step up from last year.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Foles went down for the Jags. That's kind of a bummer for them. He's going to be out for a while. And Gardner Minshew came in and I think surprised a lot of people in his play. But I think that that's concerning because a rookie that we've never, I mean, people know of, but I mean, I haven't really heard of this guy that much. Gardner Minshew the second. Fun fact, I read somewhere that his dad's name isn't even Gardner, it's Flint. So, I mean, that Texas-looking QB gun, I mean, he looks pretty solid, But my concern is more about that Chiefs defense. Yes, I agree with you. They've obviously taken a step forward, but Gardner Minshew kind of carved them up a little bit. And, I mean, I still believe that Nick Foles isn't that great of a quarterback, and he carved them up a little bit. I mean, I guess it really wasn't that close in the end, but I believe that Chiefs defense is something that I think we still should be a little bit concerned about because it's not great. I don't even think it's really good. I think it's a little bit below average. And you can't have Mahomes just trying to fight you out of all these games over and over again. Now, they looked okay against Foles and Minshew, but, I mean, both those quarterbacks still carved them up a little bit, you know?
I agree. I do agree with you. I think the key stat for the Chiefs defense is minimizing the big plays. Last year, the big plays destroyed that defense. We saw it in the playoffs last year when they were playing against quality teams like the Patriots. It was really bad, but I think for Kansas City, if they limit big plays, maybe if they get 2 or 3 big plays per game, they'll be fine. Because honestly, when it comes down to it, yards are great, but at the end of the day, it's about how many points are given up and how many big plays. And I think for Kansas City, the key stat is big plays. If they cut down on the big plays, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree. If they can minimize big plays and if they can solidify and rush the quarterback more and, you know, really get those front 7 people under pressuring quarterbacks, I think that this team will be really good. And I think that they will be – I think it'll be Patriots Chiefs again in that AFC Championship game. That's just my belief, but yeah. All right. So moving on to number 3. Sorry, my page is loading here. I have the Ravens at number 3. I had my doubts about Lamar Jackson. I would be the first one to admit. I said he couldn't throw the ball that deep. I said he couldn't really throw that well and that he needed to work on that. And I think he proved to a lot of people, including myself, that he can throw the deep ball. He can really sling it out there and he can do it accurately. Now, when you put up that amount of points, 59, I believe, on the Dolphins, is that really good offensive play or is that really bad defensive play? Now, obviously, you know, he had some great throws, great runs, great catches, but a lot of those receivers were just wide open. So I want to hear your take on, do you believe that the Ravens offense is that explosive or just the Miami defense was that bad? And I think it's a combination of two. I think the offense of the Ravens is a little bit better than what we saw last year, and I think Lamar Jackson's taking big step forwards. But that Miami team, I think they're going to go 0-16.
I tend to agree with you on this. I think when it comes to the Miami Dolphins, everyone knew that this year it's a tanking year, obviously. So when they put up 59 points, Lamar Jackson went 17 for 20, perfect pass rating. I wasn't surprised that he was going to do well, but I didn't think he was going to do that great. But from the offensive aspect, I think this, even though before, as we've both said that they played against a bad team, I think it's a really good sign moving forward for this team because Lamar Jackson showed a lot of poise in the pocket. His mechanics are fixed. And again, I think each week, if he can put up maybe 250, 270 yards per game, maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns, and a couple big plays to his wide receivers, especially Marquise Brown, they'll be fine. So I think going forward, I don't expect him to throw 5 touchdowns every game. But if he can be like above like a good quarterback, they'll be fine because that defense is stellar. And with the combination of the explosiveness of Lamar Jackson and that offense, I think they'll be fine. But again, I agree with you. I think I want to see him play against better defenses. Then I can get a true evaluation of how good.
Yeah,
he
and it's
really
only
is.
week 1, so I think Ravens number 3 for sure. I think they really showed how great they can be. Number 4, Cowboys. They look sharp, even though New York Giants aren't that great of a team. They still look sharp. Dak Prescott looked really good. What's your take?
I was impressed with them. I think the fact that, and this is my take on this, the reason why Dak played so well, he's in a contract year. He rejected $30 million per year from the Cowboys, and believe me, I think each week he's going to get better and better. And I think if he's playing like that with Zeke Elliott, there is no doubt that this Cowboys team could be Super Bowl contenders. But they're playing against Washington this week. I want to see him play against other defenses because I think Washington is in a similar state as the New York Giants. They don't have a lot of depth. But overall, I think you can justify this ranking based on the Week 1 performance.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add. Dak looked good. He got me a ton of fantasy points. That offense looked pretty explosive, and he looked solid. We're going to talk about Dak Prescott later and what that contract means. I don't think he could be the highest paid quarterback. He should make like $27 million. I think he's worth it. He's not the best quarterback, so he shouldn't get the best money. And they're going to have to pay. They already paid Zeke, and if you pay Dak that much, your team is going to suffer big time. When almost half of your money is basically going to two players. Not half, but still quite a bit. But yeah, Cowboys look sharp. I have them at 4. 5 are the Rams. They look really good. I think what they were able to do on offense and on the defense side of the ball, I think that they solidified themselves again as a great contender. Goff coming off a big contract. Todd Gurley. I think that whole offense looks explosive, and that defense, again, with Aaron Donald, still looks great. And I think that they're going to be in contention for going to the Super Bowl this year in the NFC.
I think what keeps this team together is Sean McVay. He's a great players coach, and it shows up every single week. They're sharp, they execute. And I think for the Rams, Jared Goff has been a key. And I think going forward, this Rams team is going to be really good. Obviously, in week 1, Jared Goff wasn't as sharp, but I would not bank on Jared Goff having two average games. And I think Brandon Cooks is going to go deep against that Saints defense, frankly, because if it's anything we saw against Houston, that's concerning, and I think easily they could go up on the power rankings, no doubt in my mind.
Yep, so I have Rams at 5. 6, Saints, they looked really good. Breeze looks really good. Just that leadership and poise that he was able to show on Monday Night Football. First of all, Deshaun Watson, I give you guys credit. You guys looked amazing. I don't have you guys in the top 10. I have you guys at 11. I think that, the Texans looked really good. I don't think they're great right now just because there's still a lot of unknowns on that Saints defensive side of the ball. But Deshaun Watson looked great. The receivers looked great. Everybody on that team looked actually really good. Excuse me. But yeah, I have the Saints at number 6 just because you can't count them out. They still look good. I'm excited to see the Saints-Rams game this year. Two teams in the top 10 going at it, especially after the rematch of last year with that blatant pass interference that got ignored. Yeah, so I think the Saints are really good. They're going to have an explosive offense again this year. That defense has a little bit to be desired, but I think that they can. I think it's a good defense, and I don't think they're going to win games for them. I think that they'll prevent big leads. Does that make sense? I don't think that they'll make big plays, but I think they'll be good enough they can hinder a quarterback if they need to. So I have the Saints at number 6. Anything you want to add?
I think the reason I love the Saints is that there's this continuity in that organization, a great front office, awesome coaching staff. But I think when it comes down to it, the consistent player that holds that offense together is Drew Brees. And guess what? Michael Thomas has got a huge extension. He's Mr. Reliable. He doesn't drop passes. He's a great route runner. And I think it's kind of similar to the Chiefs' defense. As long as they minimize big plays, of course, I think they're going to give up some yards, but I'm not really concerned about that. I'm more concerned about, are they going to minimize big plays, especially in that division when there are explosive offenses. But the Saints they're a well-run organization, and this spot justifies them in the power rankings.
7, I have the Chargers. What's your take?
I think last week they played really well. My real question this week is they have a lot of injuries, and they're playing against the Detroit Lions. The Lions, they're below average, trying to be average. In other words, they're just not that great. But I think with all those injuries, I still think Phillip Rivers can lead this team. And they're a fighting team. They had a lead early. The Colts came back. But then in overtime, the leadership of Phillip Rivers came in. Austin Eckler, their backup running back, he stepped in for Melvin Gordon. And guess what? This team has resiliency. I think they are going to be perennial. They're going to they could make a deep playoff run. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think the Chargers just look solid. Even though that game did go into overtime, I still think that what you said, they showed resilience, and they showed no sign of slowing down through the whole game. They look good. both on both sides of the ball, and I think Phillip Rivers can have a career year. I don't think they're really missing Melvin Gordon that much. Eckler stepped right in and had a big game. So I think that the Chargers, you may disagree on this spot, but I think that because they show so much resilience, and I think that they're only going to get better when the season goes on. I have the Chargers at number 7. Number 8, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. With Carson Wentz healthy, they're a team to be feared. They showed just a lot of big plays last Sunday with Deshaun Jackson coming back. That defense looks pretty good. Offensive side of the ball, like I mentioned with Deshaun Jackson, Carson Wentz, they look really solid. The Eagles, they're going to be a big name this year. They coming off a Super Bowl win just a couple years ago, obviously not last year. But yeah, because Wentz was hurt last year near the end there. So I think with Wentz, if he can stay healthy, the Eagles will be a real solid team this year.
That's really spot on analysis of this team, because frankly, man, if we look at the past success of Carson Wentz, he's always had a deep ball threat. One year it was Torrey Smith. This year it's Deshaun Jackson. And this offense is really good. The only thing I would be concerned about if I'm an Eagles fan is that defense. They looked a little bit shaky against Washington, especially when Case Keenum threw a couple touchdowns against them. But when I was looking at it, most of it was due to poor tackling. But I do think that those mistakes they made on defense are fixable. They're teachable moments. But overall, I think the Eagles, they're a really run organization, a great coaching staff. They're only going to get better throughout the season.
Yeah, and that showed when they were down. They just fought back, and they eventually won that game. I was a little concerned when I was watching the first half of that game, but they came back strong in the second half. They fixed their mistakes, and they looked really, really solid. So I think they can only do that going forward, and I think that they can be really, really good. On number 9, I have a tie. I have the Packers and the Vikings. I don't know. Both teams just looked really good to me. The Minnesota defense looks pretty solid. Kirk Cousins only threw 10 passes, but I don't know. The running game looked really good, and that defense looked really good. I think they're going to allow Kirk Cousins to open up more when it comes through. And I still have the Packers at number 9 just because they beat the – oh, excuse me. I'm just – sorry. Just because they this is live. We don't really edit much. So, yeah, Packers, Vikings, I have them tied. I think either one of them will win the NFC North. Bears will squeak in. They look horrible. Mitch Trubisky looks like a rookie, stares down his receivers. That's a rant for another time, okay? But, yeah, I have Packers, Vikings tied for number 9 just because I wanted to get Seahawks in at 10. But what are your thoughts on Packers, Vikings? Packers, defense looks solid. Their offense with Aaron Rodgers, you can't ever count them out, and the Vikings looked pretty good too.
I think I'm really encouraged by the Minnesota Vikings. I thought last year their offense, the way they ran their offense, I didn't agree how they were running it, because when you have a good running back in Dalvin Cook, you should feed him the ball as much as you can. And guess what? Kirk Cousins is best when he's playing off play action passes. That's what he did well with Washington before. So I think for the Vikings, number 9 is a really good spot. In terms of Green Bay, I know people are going to say, well, the defense looked great, but how can you justify putting Green Bay at number 9 when their offense didn't produce? And to that, I would say, you know what? There is a couple plays in that game that gave me hope and optimism for the Packers offense, because there's a huge play downfield, and that's a staple of Matt LaFleur's offense. That play action deep shot, Aaron Rodgers does that really well. I feel like this week for Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers is going to spread that ball around, and it's going to look similar to what Sean McVay's doing in Los Angeles. So I think overall Green Bay is going to get better each week, and it's really important to keep in mind. Aaron Rodgers is still adjusting to a new offense. That defense has lots of continuity with the returning defensive coordinator. So to have both these teams at number 9, I think it's really justifiable, and it's going to be interesting going forward how this plays out as the season goes on, because it's going to be a slugfest in the NFC North with all these great defenses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be real close near the end, and I think the last game is really going to matter, and it's going to. When when the Bears won it last year, they won it by 2 games. I mean, they won it, I think, week 15 when they played Minnesota. And they were, I mean, yeah, I don't know. They won it week 15. And, the Vikings needed to, I'm sorry. They didn't play Minnesota week 15. They played them on the last game. But Minnesota needed to beat them in order to make the playoffs. But the Bears won it outright week 15. So I think that this year is going to be a lot closer. I think each team has a strong defense. Each team can have a potent offense if they really focus on it. If Trubisky gets solid. I mean, I think that Packers offense is going to be good. That Vikings offense, Kirk Cousins' second year with the team, I think it's going to be real explosive, especially with Stephon Diggs, coming back, still being a part of that team. He'll be a staple. Thielen being a staple. And, yeah, the Lions, I think with T.J. Hawkinson now, they have weapons on the outside. And then Mitch Trubisky, I mean, come on, man. You got to compete with these other quarterbacks in the league. And if you can't do that, you're not even going to make the playoffs. So, as I have to say, it's going to be slugfest in the NFC North. I'm looking forward to watching it, but only if my team wins. Okay, number 10, I have the Seahawks. Can't ever count them out. I know this is a bit of a risky pick, but I still think the Seahawks are a good team. Russell Wilson looks solid back there. He looks like he always does. I think that team has resilience. That team can do really, really good. Even though Andy Dalton kind of put a smackdown on him, actually. He threw for a lot of yards, and he looked solid. I still think that the Seahawks team, you can never count them out, so that's why I have them at 10.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the dynamics of the Seahawks have changed quite a bit. It used to be like with the Marshawn Lynch era, run the ball a lot, Legion of Boom. But I do think that the Seahawks are, again, they're kind of similar to the Los Angeles Chargers. They're resilient. I think the talent, there's been a talent upgrade with Russell Wilson and his supporting cast. And again, I think Seattle's going to get better. They're going to get better each and every week. Again, my only concern is that the offensive line. I think for years, Russell Wilson has had to run around a lot in the pocket. But I think this is a position where Seattle wants to be in. And number 10 is a very justifiable ranking for this team. Overall, I think they're going to have a great week. They're going to play really well, and they will be in the playoffs. No doubt about it.
All right, so that's our top 10. Let me run it back for you. It goes Patriots, Chiefs, Ravens, Cowboys, Rams, Saints, Chargers, Eagles, Packers, Vikings at 9, and then Seahawks at 10. I think that's a pretty solid list. I think we'll see all these teams make the playoffs, except the Packers, Vikings. I don't think one of them won't. One of them will, and I think the other one's going to just not be able to. But right now, I have them at 9 just because they look solid. I mean, NFC North, that's going to be a great division to watch. But, yeah, and then 10 Seahawks. So, yeah, that's our top 10 teams, and I think those are all justified on where they are in their spots. Yeah, and so now we're going to move on to our next conversation. That was the greatest transition of all time right there. We're going to talk about Antonio Brown. Of course, we're going to talk about Antonio Brown. Everybody talks about Antonio Brown. So, first of all, the Brown allegations. I know this is a sensitive topic. He just got his old trainer is going to charge him. Well, going to bring him to court over rape, and this is going to be one where she wants compensated for money rather than him going to jail. So she wants compensation from that from many years ago. So I'm just curious on what your take is. I think you have a better opinion on this than me about what this looks like for Antonio Brown and how maybe his legacy might be tainted by this. Regardless, I mean, even if he wins the case, the accusations are false. I mean, I don't want to say that, women who, say that they got raped are false. I'm just saying if he wins the case and the allegations are false, will this taint his legacy, especially after all of these other things that came out, with, all that shenanigans he did in Oakland. I'm just curious on what your thoughts are. I think you know more about this than I do.
So based on the reporting I've seen from the NFL Network and ESPN, this is being investigated by the NFL. Antonio Brown's accuser is meeting with NFL security officials to talk about the incidents that the alleged instance that occurred with Antonio Brown. And I think first and foremost, I think as fans, and again, this is where I think we need to be very careful. We need to we as fans should wait until this investigation is wrapped up to make an opinion on this. And first and foremost, I think all these matters should be taken seriously. And again, I want to stress this again. Antonio Brown and everyone in our legal system is innocent until proven guilty. So my thing is, and this is what the people within the Patriots organization are saying, it's an ongoing legal matter, and they're not commenting on it. And that should be an appropriate stance. We should let the NFL do its investigation and go from there. But another important thing fans need to know about this is that Antonio Brown is not going on the commissioner's exempt list. And for those that do not know what that is, anytime there's a player that's violating the personal conduct policy, it's really, in essence, it's paid leave while investigation. So I just want to keep that in mind. But again, I want to stress this again. It's an investigation, and fans should wait until the investigation wraps up. And as you said before, this is in no way saying that we should discredit victims of rape. So that's where the investigation is at right now, according to Adam Schefter and Eden Rappaport at the NFL Network.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to agree with your point on that. I think when we talk about his legacy, I think that in many, many years, I think Antonio Brown probably makes a Hall of Fame. I think if he wins this, people will forget about it. But if he loses this, I think that it's going to be a stain on his record, and I think that people are going to look at him differently. I mean, he still plays for the Patriots. I mean, I think he's going to be pretty good there. But yeah, it's weird because the NFL is still allowing him to play. The commissioner hasn't put him on his exempt list, so where he would sit out while the investigation's going. So the commissioner has allowed him to play during this, which is a little bit surprising to me. I don't really understand that, but that's what's going to happen, and an investigation is going to take place. Regardless, I think that this is not a great timing for Antonio Brown. I think that, after all that shenanigans in Oakland and now this happening, I think that can, even if he wins or lose, people will still look at him differently, but especially if he loses this case and it's proven that he did sexually assault that woman, his trainer, that I think that's going to be a pretty big stain on his legacy. I mean, he already has a kind of a bad reputation just as a person, just because of all that crap he pulled. It won't be quiet. But I think that the Patriots and Antonio Brown need to be very careful with this situation. But that's what I have to say on anything. So do you have anything else you want to
add? I really do agree with you. I think whether or not he wins or loses this, his legacy even before that is it's going to be tainted either way. That's the way I view it. However, I think this was kind of confusing to me. And again, this is what Adam Schefter said. Before the Raiders or the Patriots acquired Antonio Brown, they were unaware of these allegations against him. So there's just a lot of details here that the public doesn't know about. But I just hope the NFL does its due diligence on this investigation. They do a thorough investigation, and if any punishment does come, they do the right punishment. Because if we know anything about Roger Goodell in the past, he's made some horrible mistakes. And I think of, I don't know about you, but I think about Ray Rice. Ray Rice getting a 2-game suspension for beating his wife in the elevator. So my hope is that the NFL does what is right in this situation. But I've also lost confidence in the past. But as I said before, I think the NFL needs to do a complete investigation of this. And he probably should have been on the commissioner's exempt list. And that's where I agree with you on. I agree with your analogy on that.
What do you think? Will he mold into the Patriots way? Will he shut his mouth a little bit? I mean, He said on Twitter he had a picture of him the Patriots way sitting in like a pile of money. It's like, no, that's not the Patriots way. That has me concerned. But besides those allegations, nothing's really come up since then.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think honestly he has to. He's pretty much forced to change. You can't. Any fan that thinks otherwise, I don't know what they're thinking, because this is really his one of his last chances to play and contribute to a team. And believe me, his agent knows this. Drew Rosenhaus knows this. So I do think he's going to. However, if he doesn't shape up, the Patriots are going to cut him loose.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that he has to change because a Super Bowl ring is in his sight. He can probably get 2 rings this year or next year with the Patriots. I mean, I think that'll change a lot on how people think of him if he ends up getting a Super Bowl ring and becomes one of the main reasons why they end up getting a ring. Okay, great. Another smooth transition. We're gonna work away from that, and we're gonna talk about the Jets, what their season looks like. Now that Sam Darnold, he's not gone for the year, but he's gone for I think 3 weeks. I think he'll come back. I believe the week after their bye is what I read is when he'll come back. So these next couple weeks with their backup quarterback, he's going to have to perform well. What do you think? Will the Jets be able to win a couple of these games, or is pretty much their season? They have high hopes for the season. Are they pretty much are they done? Will they lose these games and not be able to partake in the playoffs?
I don't think the Jets make the playoffs. I'm not sold on their roster. Again, last week they had a 16-point lead. Their defense blew it. They gave up far too many big plays against the Buffalo offense, which really isn't that explosive. And with Sam Darnold out for 3 weeks, that offense is going to sputter because if we're going to be real, I don't have confidence in Trevor Siemian.
I don't either. No, I have zero. Whatever. I have no confidence at all. Yeah,
he's a journeyman. In essence, he's really just a journeyman backup quarterback. When he was a starter, he really wasn't that effective. At best, he's an average quarterback. But overall, in the short term, I think they're going to lose games. Now, do I think they're going to be improved from last season? Yes. But do I think they're going to be playoff bound? I don't think so.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Although, I think they lose these games. I think they go 9-7 this year and don't make the playoffs, which would suck because this is Sam Darnold's big year. And kind of sucks he has Mana. That's a bummer for them. That's just something unexpected. I think the Jets are going to have to bounce back from this. The only reason I see them winning games is because of Le'Veon Bell. He looked really good in his first game.
Oh, yeah.
He looked solid. He looked like the money that they're going to pay him. And he looks good to me. He looks like he's fitting in really well, and he looks like he's really enjoying himself there, which I don't blame him. Going from Pittsburgh to New York, I would like that too, I think, especially with just a young guy in Sam Darnold that has a ton of upside. I think the Jets go 9-7, don't make the playoffs this year, but I think next year they can make a big, big step forward in Sam Darnold's third year.
Also, I think Adam Gase is setting a tone for this team. It was reports that he cut his kicker who missed an extra point and a field goal, and again, that they would have won that game. And they just signed Demaryius Thomas. But I think the problem is their wide receivers. They're sloppy in their route running. They don't make plays. And again, the average throw distance for Sam Darnold was a lot of throws behind the line of scrimmage, 5 yards down the field. That's not going to win you a lot of games.
No, and Sam Darnold has a cannon. You need to let him just chuck that. I mean, people say he's got a bigger arm than Mahomes, so you got to let him try and bomb 50-yarders. Just let him send it out there and see what the kid's got. You can't let a big arm QB like that throw checkdowns all game. You're not gonna win like that.
Yep, and really at the end of the day, I know Adam Gase is a first-year head coach, but I feel like that he's going to be in the hot seat pretty soon because, number one, the GM that hired him is no longer there. And with this new GM, he's going to evaluate this team and say, you know what, maybe this is not our head coach that's going to help our quarterback. So overall, they're going to improve, but I just don't think they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I agree, especially when you lose to the Bills like that. I mean, you can't just think you're going to make the playoffs after that abysmal kind of fourth quarter that they had where they let the Bills come back and win near the end there. All right, sweet. So we're going to move on from that. I believe yeah, you're right. I believe they don't make the playoffs this year, but I think they have potential in later years. I think with Sam Darnold growing. All right, so we're moving on. Will the Chiefs' offense be okay without Tyreek Hill for the next couple weeks? What's your take?
I think so. I think Kansas City will be just fine without Tyreek Hill. Now, is it going to stink in the short term that they don't have one of the most elite wide receivers in the league? Absolutely. But I just think with the amount of weapons this team has, we're talking Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Damian Williams, I think they're going to be fine. And the way that Andy Reid has this offense designed for Patrick Mahomes, they're still going to put up points. So, yes, I think when it comes to losing Tyreek Hill, he makes like maybe 3 explosive plays every game. They're going to lose that in the short term, but they're still going to put up 35, 40 points. I don't doubt it.
And they were fine without him in the first game. I mean, because he went down, I believe, in the first half, and Sammy Watkins stepped in and had a great game. I mean, what a receiver he is. But, yeah, I believe that they're going to be fine. I just want to talk about that because I saw something on ESPN that said, will the Chiefs' offense be okay without Tyreek Hill? Yeah, they're going to be fine, to be honest. Honestly, I think they should trade him for a first-round pick and get something. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But Tyreek Hill is a great player. He brings explosiveness to the offense, and they're going to be fine without him. All right. So what the frick is going on with the Browns? I mean, what an abysmal start. Losing to the Titans like that. There was so much high hope, so much expectation, so much hype surrounding this team, and they just went dumpster diving. Mayfield tried to force throws in that fourth quarter, looked really bad. Offense wasn't explosive. OBJ wearing a $350,000 watch. People were like, they're going nuts over it. Who cares? I don't care what he does. It's his money. Why are people making such a big deal about it? Who cares? That's my opinion. I think people are running out of topics to talk about. Nobody cares about your watch, OBJ. But yeah, what's going on with the Browns? What's your take here? I think it's real sloppy.
That was on paper, we said this before the season started, they are one of the most talented rosters. However, it's one thing to say something on paper and actually see it on the field. And what I saw there was that defense was not playing high level. They were missing tackles. We're talking about blown coverages. And I just think this first game was a humbling moment for this team. It's either going to bring this team together or it's going to break them apart. However, I think Odell Beckham Jr. needs to stop being the center of attention for this team. It drives me crazy. Like last year, the narrative of this team was hardworking. They're a winning culture, even without OBJ. Now that they have all this talent, I think Freddie Kitchens needs to bring this team together. And hopefully this next game, they realize that you don't win based on talent. You win as a team. And last week, they did not play as a team.
I agree. They looked a little selfish, especially in the press conference. Everyone had piss poor attitudes. They were like, they're all whining, and I don't know. I think Freddie Kitchens needs to step up here and be like, hey, OBJ, we have Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. If you guys are going to split a lot of catches and passes. You guys aren't going to have big games like you did back when you were in New York. You might have 5 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown, instead of 15 catches, 150 yards, and 2, So because both players are so explosive, they need to realize that they both can't be the centerpiece of this offense, that they're going to share a lot of stuff. And if you're going to make it into the postseason and make a run, you need to realize that you need to come together as a team and not be so selfish. So I think that their selfishness is going to be eventually what's going to tank this team. Yeah, I think that's what I think. Also, first-year head coach in Freddie Kitchens, I think let's see what he does. But I think that team needs to come together more as a team and focus more on doing stuff together, as one instead of things separately. So Panthers last night, Cam Newton didn't look good. I think that this is his year. If Cam Newton can't make him into the postseason, I honestly think you trade him. That shoulder has never looked the same since that injury, and that's honestly concerning. If you can't beat the Buccaneers, come on, man.
Exactly.
Ron Rivera had an interesting play call on 4th down and 1, or it was 4th and 2, 4th and 1, something last night. But they ran like an outside, like double switch up run that got taken out. Just have Cam Newton run the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, listen, he ran the ball earlier in the game. He can make 1 yard if the line pushes, okay? So I don't really get the play calling near the end of that game. Okay, Cam Newton didn't really look that good. He threw for over 300 yards, I think, which is good. But, I mean, he also threw a pick. So I guess it's not terrible, but, I mean, Cam Newton just needs to shape up. I'm tired of excuses from him. I think sometimes he focuses more on what he's going to wear to the game than what he's actually going to play during the game. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Panthers this year? I think going 0-2, I don't know if you can recover like that and make it to the playoffs.
I'm puzzled by the Panthers organization. I'm just very confused about the direction of their offense and what they're doing. Like, my goodness. Like, Cam Newton is not the same player, as you clearly stated. And it's really obvious. And if I'm a Panthers fan, it's like, I get like, there's this trend with Ron Rivera. Every other year he makes the playoffs. I'm not sure about this year. If Cam Newton's playing like this every single week, because look, that defense is fine. That defense kept him in the game. The problem is the lack of big plays. Cam Newton cannot make a throw downfield to save his life. So, in other words, I'm confused at what direction this organization is going in. Because they have winning pedigree, but this year I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think if they don't win after this year, I think Rivera's gone, and I think Cam Newton's gone. I mean, I think you got to get rid of him, and you got to try something new, because this obviously isn't working if they don't make the postseason again. I think you get rid of both coach and quarterback and try and start something fresh, try and draft another quarterback and see what he's got. But, yeah, again, I don't understand where this Panthers organization is going. Cam Newton really needs to show up or show out this year, because if he looks bad again and that, his shoulder doesn't look great, he's going to have a couple big games this year, but can you do it consistently on a basis where your team's going to win? That's the question, and I think no. I think he's really struggled the last couple of years. Ever since he won MVP, he's been just on a downfall, and I don't see the Panthers really going much of anywhere this year, especially losing to the Bucs like that. Jameis Winston, I think, looked a lot better than his Week 1 performance, and I'm going to give credit to him, and he looked sharp. Okay, I always liked Jameis Winston, even though he threw a lot of picks. I still think he had a lot of potential. It's his 5th year, so this year he really needs to show up this year. If he has a few picks here and there, I think that'll be okay, but I don't think he has. I'm giving him a little bit more slack than Cam Newton. I don't know. We'll see after this year what he's like. Maybe they sign him to like 2 more years if he does good, and we'll see what the Bucs do. But I think Jameis Winston looked pretty sharp after last night's game, and we're just going to see where it takes him.
And again, I've never been a huge fan of Jameis Winston, even coming out of college. I thought he's a turnover machine. He doesn't make good decisions. And it's really frustrating, and we've seen that in the NFL. Hopefully, he can fix those mistakes, because if he can't fix it with Bruce Arians, who is he going to fix his mistakes with? Seriously.
Yeah, then he'll get released, and the Bucs will try somebody else or try drafting something else. But yeah, they looked okay, and I can see the team went in going 8-8, not making the playoffs again. And we'll see where Jameis Winston is. If he looks good, then the Bucs can grow off of that and be like, okay, this guy's improving. It's his 5th year. He's got it now. Bruce Arians has changed him. First game didn't really look like that. Okay, but I think that the Bucs can be a decent team and just barely miss the playoffs. Yeah, that's my take on that. Okay, the next thing we have is a little bit of a Lions rant. Have at it. I'm gonna wash some dishes here. I'm just gonna.
All right. Okay. So anyone who watched the Lions game last week, they had an 18-point lead against the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, 18-point lead, and somehow they blew the lead. They blew the lead, and they ended up in a tie. And seriously, as Lions fans are frustrated, rightfully so. I just want to break down a couple things that just make me upset about what and how what the Lions did, and how those mistakes and what mistakes they need to fix. Number 1, can I please just start with this? Horrible time management by this coaching staff. And if there's one play that just personifies the problems with the Detroit Lions in that game it was in the fourth quarter. So it's a third down. All they need is one first down to win the game. To ice the game, take a knee, head back to Detroit, and start off with a pretty good start. But guess what? That doesn't happen. You want to know why? Because Darrell Bevell, our offensive coordinator, the Lions offensive coordinator, he calls a timeout before they run the play. Yes, a timeout. It was just embarrassing. And again, it's self-evident. We look at to see the reaction from Matthew Stafford, who was just ticked off. And again, I would be ticked off too, knowing that I have an incompetent coaching staff that doesn't know what they're doing. But furthermore, we let a rookie quarterback come back and lead the Cardinals to a tie. How on earth could the Lions let that happen? Seriously. And I get you're probably thinking, well, this rant could go on forever, but I will close it at this. This is the disappointing trends of the Detroit Lions of that game. And hopefully it doesn't continue. If they cannot win games they're supposed to win, this is going to be a long year. And if they cannot finish games, it is going to be an awful year for the fans of this organization. And guess what? Matt Patricia should get fired if this trend continues. So, with that being said, I've been a Lions fan my whole life, but I'm not sure about this year. If week 1 is any indication of how the season's going to go,
rip.
Seriously, it's going to be frustrating. But I'm an optimist, and guess what? I'm optimistic that they are going to win next week. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out, really. Matt Patricia's year, if he doesn't make it, I think the Lions give him one more, just because that's what the Lions do. And then I think he goes back to the Patriots. All right, great. Dak's salary, that's something I want to talk about. He declined $30 million. He wants like $40 million.
Yep, $40 million.
I think to me that's selfish. I think you can't pay your QB that much. Number one, he's not the best quarterback in the league. All right, Mahomes is. All right, and Mahomes hasn't even gotten a contract extension. Okay, he's being selfless right now. I think Dak needs to take after that. He needs to just play right now. I think that Dak Prescott's worth about $27 million. I think that's quite a lot, and I think that he's worth that much. But you can't ask for $40 million, especially after they gave Zeke that huge contract extension. Your team is going to be, 40% of your cap space is going to be 2 players. You can't do that. That's not how you build rosters. I think it's the selfishness. I love Dak, okay? I think he's a great guy and a pretty good player. But I think he's being really selfish right now, and I don't see how the Cowboys can justify paying him $35, $40. Why? I heard someone say, why does every single quarterback always need to be the next highest paid? Okay, he's not the best, okay? Your contract ran out, and should be paid what you're worth, about $25, $27 million. You have enough, I think you do enough plays to keep the Cowboys in, but I don't think you're better than Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, okay? I think you're about, 8 or 9, 10, quarterbacks down. I think you should be paid like that. I think that the Cowboys could find a quarterback that's just as good as Dak and pay him a lot less money to improve roster spots. But I don't know. I don't think Dak is worth justifying $35-40 million a year. I think Mahomes is. I think you should pay Patrick Mahomes $100 million a year if you could, because he is so good. But yeah, I think that Dak isn't worth that much, and I think the Cowboys are going to make a pretty big mistake in paying him with all this money that they're going to pretty soon here.
Oh, exactly. In my view, here's something to put in perspective. Matthew Stafford makes $27 million per year. And guess what? He's not even the highest paid quarterback because Jimmy Garoppolo makes more than him. So in my view, I think if I'm the Cowboys, there's no way you pay him like a top end quarterback because Because if there's anything to show that he's not a top-end quarterback, look at his past seasons with the Cowboys. It was mainly because the play-action pass after you give the ball to Zeke Elliott 30 times. Yeah. And guess what? You get wide-open wide receivers. Like, look, we saw this against the New York Giants. All of his touchdown throws were to wide-open wide receivers. I'm not saying he's a game manager. He's a slight upgrade over a game manager where he'll make a couple plays here and there. But I think Dak needs to be a little more honest about his worth when it comes to amongst the quarterbacks. And I think if you're the Cowboys, make it a team-friendly deal. Do not get bogged down in his contract because you're also going to have to pay Amari Cooper.
Or give Dak a big signing bonus.
Oh, smart.
I think if he does ask for $40 million a year, 5 years, $40 million a year, I think you give a lot of that in a signing bonus. That's going to be a hit right now, but it's going to clear up a lot of cap space later. Do what they did with Julio Jones. Give him. He was, $64 million guaranteed.
Okay.
He got $62 million on a signing bonus, which sucks for his taxes because he's gonna have to. He's only gonna get like 30 because we are. Anyway, but yeah, I think that what the Cowboys can do if Dak asks for that money is give him like $100 million signing bonus. That sounds like a lot, but that might be the way you have to do it just to clear up cap space in the future.
And I think for the Cowboys, while I do believe they need to sign up and shore up their players, I think they need to be smart about how they sign their players. So clearly, overpaying Dak Prescott is not going to help you win Super Bowls. Also, overpaying Amari Cooper as a top number one wide receiver. Well, I do think he's number one on this team. I don't think he's worth as much as like Julio Jones, because I think Julio Jones makes much more of an impact all over the field. But overall, I think Jerry Jones and the front office over there, they need to be smart about it. If they're smart, they could win a lot of championships. If not, there is going to be a mediocre team for whatever the length of the contract they give Dak Prescott.
Yeah, they got to put it in a signing bonus. So those are our takes on that. And the last thing we're going to wrap up this podcast with is that we're going to go for games for Sunday in our predictions, and we're just going to go back and forth. Hold on here. Sorry, guys. All right. So game number 1 on Monday. So we already know what the outcome of the Bucs-Panthers game was, obviously. Cardinals at Ravens. Who do you got?
Baltimore.
I have Baltimore, too. I think that that offense looks so explosive. I think Lamar Jackson is going to have another pretty big game. I think that Ravens defense is just going to confuse Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's going to throw, I think, 3 picks in this game. I think Kyler Murray, I'd still have faith in him. I think he's going to be a career backup in 4 years. I don't think he has. I don't know. I just never really liked Kyler Murray. I think that he's overrated and overhyped, and I guess we're going to find out. That's the take for a different time, I guess. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a rant here. But yeah, I definitely have Baltimore winning this by a lot, and I have the Cowboys beating the Redskins by 2 touchdowns on Sunday.
That's a smart pick. Washington's defense is awful. I think with again Zeke Elliott back, counting in the groove of being the starting running back again, it's going to be a blowout. I think Dak will be the beneficiary of a great running game. He's going to throw 3 touchdowns. I give Zeke Elliott I give him 2 rushing touchdowns for Zeke Elliott. Overall, it's going to be a blowout. Washington does not stand a chance.
Yeah. Okay, Colts-Titans. I'm going to pick the underdog. I'm picking the Colts for this one. I think originally I said Titans because they beat the Browns, but, the Colts hung in there right with the Chargers all last game, and I think Jacoby Brissett's going to have a decent game. So, you know what? I'm gonna pick the Colts.
This game I'm really torn because Marcus Mariota played pretty well the first game. But the real question is, can I count on for 2 games in a row would be great?
Inconsistency with him is a concern.
Yes. So with that being said, I'm going to go with Indianapolis in this game. I think the resiliency they showed against the Los Angeles Chargers, especially and Malik Hooker, their safety, just phenomenal play, one-handed interception. I think that team, they're resilient. They're fighting. They're going to fight. There's no doubt about it. So I give the Colts. They're going to win by a field goal. Adam Vinatieri is going to hit a field goal to win the game for them.
Yeah, I have Colts winning. Seahawks, Steelers. Steelers are like crap when they play the Patriots. I'm taking the Seahawks for this one. I think they win by 1 or 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I don't have faith in the Steelers this season, so I'm taking Seattle.
Okay, for this one, I'm actually gonna take Pittsburgh for this one because I think Big Ben's gonna be motivated this game. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is gonna step up. I think James Conner is gonna also have a good game because I don't think that Seahawks defense is not the same as it was. So that being said, I think Big Ben throws a couple touchdowns. James Conner is gonna do really well. So I'm gonna take Pittsburgh. But it's not a confident pick. Normally in past years I'd be confident picking the Steelers. Not this year, but I'm confident enough to pick them in this game.
Okay, yeah, Bills-Giants, I'm taking Buffalo. I don't know, the Giants just look like a bad football team, so I'm gonna pick Buffalo for this one. I think they win by 3 points and a field goal. I think Josh Allen's gonna have a pretty solid game against this piss poor Giants defense, and I think Buffalo's gonna edge them out in the end.
Yeah, Buffalo clearly in this game. I just think Sterling Shepard is in concussion protocol. He is the number 1 wide receiver on that team now. And I think with Josh Allen's getting better. He clearly showed great potential last game. He's getting better every game. He has gotten better. So with that being said, Buffalo does win this game. I do think it's gonna be a low scoring though, but Buffalo wins.
Okay, next up we have 49ers Bengals. You know what? I'm gonna take the Bengals on this one. The Red Rifle had a pretty solid game last week, and I have confidence in him to do it again. I think I still have questions about Jimmy G. I still think he's overpaid. But yeah, you know what? I'm going to take the Bengals on this one. What do you think?
You know what? I'm going to take the 49ers in this game. I think last week, Jimmy G is still trying to shake off the rust from not playing a lot of football over not playing a lot of football last year. I think this year this game he puts together. I will have to say he performed below expectations, what I thought. But I think I take the 49ers because I think this team steps up and they get better, and I think they win.
Okay, yeah. I just saw something. Joe Mixon's going to be back for that game for the Bengals, so I think they're going to be good. I think John Ross is going to have a big game, which he better because I just put him on my fantasy team over Tariq Cohen. So hopefully, I think with AJ Green gone and John Ross stepping up, made big strides last week. I think that they have a solid chance at winning this game. So I'm going to take Cincinnati. Chargers at Lions. Who you got?
I have the Detroit Lions winning this game. And I know I said this before, I'm not very confident in Lions all the time, but Los Angeles Chargers have a lot of injuries. And if there's any moment where the Lions could win a game, this is the game for Detroit to win. I think Matt Stafford and TJ Hawkinson, that combination is lethal. And with, again, Derwin James is going to he's missing 6 months. There are big plays to be made in this game against the Chargers defense. So I say the Lions win by a touchdown.
I am going to disagree with you. I think the Lions are still the Lions, and I think they're going to find a way to lose this game. Now, does that mean that they're the Chargers, the better team? I don't think necessarily. I think the Lions have, especially with the injuries on the Chargers, but I think the Lions will line it out and find a way to lose it. So the reason I'm picking the Chargers is one, because Philip Rivers, you can't ever count him out. But I think the Lions will line their way out of this game and go 0-1-1 to start the season. So, yeah. So, Vikings at Green Bay. I'm going to pick Minnesota. I think that Kirk Cousins in his second year with the team is going to look pretty solid. Plus, I just hate Green Bay, and I'm biased towards them.
For this game, this is a toss-up game because both teams, while Green Bay's offense didn't show potential, that defense is really good. However, I think Minnesota's offense, I give the edge to Minnesota in this game because I think their offense is a little better at this point than Green Bay. So that being said, I think Minnesota wins this game, but I think it's gonna be a slugfest defensive matchup. There's not gonna be a lot of points. The game's gonna be won by the quarterbacks in this one, in my view. So clearly, I think Kirk Cousins throws a touchdown in a low-scoring game, and Minnesota wins.
Jaguars, Texans, I'm taking Houston.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty obvious.
yeah, Houston. I'm picking Houston. Jacksonville's defense is really they're undisciplined. They commit a lot of stupid penalties, a lot of personal fouls against them. So that being said, I think Sean Watson goes off against this defense.
Yep. Okay. Patriots, Dolphins. I'm taking Miami on this. No, I'm just kidding. Patriots are going to destroy Miami in every single facet of the game. It's going to be a blowout. Patriots all the way.
Yeah, New England Patriots. Tom Brady's going to score 40 fantasy points in this game, so watch out. More Miami players are going to request to be traded. So if we're going to do over-under how many players request to get traded, I'm going to be surprised if 5 players request to be traded from the team.
I would say 3. I'd say 3 more players asked to leave the Dolphins. But no one's going to pick them up because they play for Miami and they suck. All right, Chiefs, Raiders, taking Chiefs.
Kansas City. This is obvious.
Raiders actually had a pretty good game last week. I mean, I'm impressed by how well they played without Antonio Brown. Derek Carr looked sharp. John Gruden looked like the man out there. So, I like the Raiders, and I think, like I said earlier in a podcast a while ago, I think the Raiders can make the playoffs this year. But I think this is one where I think the Chiefs just expose them and they put up 40 points.
I think in this game, though, I think Oakland's going to be more competitive than fans really think. Although I don't think offensively they can keep up with the Chiefs' offense. I do think that it's going to be, I'm not going to say closer. They're going to put up more points than expected. Because as we said, the Chiefs' defense, not the best defense, but I think Kansas City runs away with this.
Yeah, I agree. Saints-Rams, a rematch of last year, NFC Championship game. I have the Rams to winning it. I think Aaron Donald and that defense is going to give, even though Breeze is an elite quarterback, I still think that they give him trouble back there. And that, for me, I think it was a toss-up. I really could go either way, but I think the Rams edge them out at the end of this game with a field goal.
Yeah, I kind of have a similar approach to this game. I think offensively both teams are really good. However, I just think the Rams' defense is just way better. They don't give up as many big plays as what the Saints are going to give up. I think it's going to be a shootout, though, and I think that Jared Goff and the LA Rams pull this one out.
It's going to be a really good game to watch. All right, Bears-Broncos, I have Chicago. I'm going to take Chicago in every single game this year just because I'm a fan of the Bears and I'm biased. But also the Broncos lost to the Raiders. With that Vic Fangio supposedly big defense, I don't know what happened to that defense. They got exposed by Derek Carr in the Raiders, second-string wide receivers. I have the Bears taking this one. I think Mitch Trubisky, even though he's not that great, I think he still kind of finds a way to keep them in there. Hopefully he doesn't suck as much butt as he did last week. But I have Bears edging out. If the Bears can't beat a team the Raiders beat, then I have serious concerns for this team. But I think I have Chicago.
This one, I'm not really confident in really any of these teams. But that being said, Joe Flacco is not really that great of a quarterback. And the defense really underperformed against an Oakland offense that wasn't expected to do much without Antonio Brown. But that being said, I think the Chicago Bears defense keeps them in this game. And I think this is the week he's going to make 1 or 2 throws that help the Bears win this game. So Chicago's going to win this.
I believe so. Eagles-Falcons, I have Carson Wentz and the Eagles taking out Atlanta.
Yeah, I just think I have the Eagles as well, too, in this game. Atlanta's defense is just awful. And it's the run the run defense for Atlanta. I just think if the Eagles can gain momentum on the ground, there is going to be shots down the field. Carson Wentz is going to be licking his chops to throw the ball downfield. So this is a pretty convincing victory for the Eagles.
Yeah, and Browns-Jets on Monday Night Football. I originally had the Jets winning, but with Sam Darnold out, I'm switching my mind. I have the Cleveland taking it with the first victory of the season.
Yep, I think Cleveland's going to win this too. I would say if Sam Darnold were playing in this game, I would still pick the Browns in this because I think the Browns are going to be motivated to play well. Either way, if Sam Darnold was playing or not. But again, I think this is the week where the Browns put it all together. That offense finally plays up to their potential that was expected of them before the season. So Cleveland, I think Cleveland has their breakout game and puts them on the right track. 1-1 for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I agree with your points. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us today. Find us on YouTube. Find us on Anchor FM. That's where we put our podcasts. Big support to them. We appreciate it. Also, follow us on Twitter, FTBall_Inc. That's where you guys can find us on Twitter. And everybody have a good weekend. And I will talk to you hopefully Tuesday. With our schedules being, we're still in college. Hopefully we have something more solidifying, later. Hopefully next year. We're still building up a base here. But we want to thank you to the 4 people who actually listen to this podcast. We thank you very much for listening, for supporting us. We appreciate a lot longer podcast today. But we had a lot to catch up because we didn't do one on Tuesday. So either myself will do one Tuesday or myself and Patrick will do one Tuesday. I think just we're going to do one that just says overall kind of what happened Monday and one of our opinions on it. So thank you for listening. We appreciate it a lot, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend.